tonight at 9 on Arizona PBS. Thanks for watching Arizona PBS, a viewer-supported community service of Arizona State University.
Hello, I'm Paula Kerger, president of PBS. I'd like to tell you about a terrific membership benefit called PBS Passport. With a qualifying donation, Passport brings more than 1,000 hours of PBS and local programming to your computer, phone, or digital media player. You can catch up on shows you may have missed or revisit some of your favorites. The best part is that you can watch whenever you want. Your contribution makes possible all of the programs that you love to watch on this station, so please don't delay. Make that contribution right now. And thank you so much for your support.
Coming up next on Arizona PBS, Life and World.
As the wet season ends, the one constant in the Outback emerges: life. From the life of those who have called this place home for generations.
In today's world, everything's under the threat of being destroyed. Here we have something that hasn't been touched.
To the ones trying to save the future.
These big, beautiful creatures, they're magnificent souls.
Every life in the Kimberly is unique.
Every morning and every afternoon you'll see them and you'll hear them.
Wednesday night at 7 on Arizona PBS. Support for Arizona PBS comes from viewers like you and from
Yupa's Thai Kitchen in Tempe features fresh, authentic Thai cuisine and vegetarian Thai dishes served in a homeland-style decor atmosphere. Open for lunch and dinner 7 days a week. Information at 480-839-0576.
Deanne Griebel, now with Moores & Cabot Investments, serving investors since 1890, proudly supports quality programming on 8 Arizona PBS, 480-725-9602.
When you cast your vote in the upcoming election, you connect with issues that hit close to home. Clean Elections provides voter resources and tools so you can vote informed on August 28th. Connect with the facts at azcleanelections.gov.
From the Cronkite Studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
A DPS trooper killed and another injured. We take a look at how officer training has transformed over the years. And One Valley Dad is making the college application process a little bit easier, one tap at a time. Plus, how One Valley High School is switching up the norm to keep players and coaches cool.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Cariño Haro.
And I'm Nicole Hernandez. Thank you for joining us.
This week, an Arizona DPS officer was killed after only 3 months on the job. Emily Richardson reports how the training for officers regarding physical confrontations has changed.
Darren Birch is a retired Phoenix police sergeant turned author who spent 29 years on the force. He has been in active shooting situations and says training today is better than the training he went through in the 80s.
The training that is available, at least in 2000 plus, which was a lot of less lethal alternatives, which is a good thing. As it becomes more violent, we need more tools so that we can de-escalate situations.
Darren Birch and Bill Shemmers served on the Phoenix Police together and have experienced having a perpetrator get a hold of one of their weapons. They say no amount of training can prepare you for that.
My partner was able to get in, Bill, and we both fell to the floor into the living room. By that time, I'm exhausted, and Bill yells out, "He's got my gun."
Still was able to grab my gun while we're on the ground, which made me give up my chance to help Darren just so I could use both of my hands to keep back control of my gun. So there is a fair amount of hands-on training, but you can't always be 100% prepared for every scenario that you're going to walk into.
The two former officers believe that while training has gotten better, the streets have gotten more violent, partly due to social media.
This is a terrible time right now for law enforcement because they're being judged on sound bites.
There's so much anti-police rhetoric out there. It kind of, I think, ingrains into the public that, why are we listening to officers? And that's what gets people killed.
According to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund, 85 law enforcement officers have been killed across the United States since the start of 2018. Emily Richardson, Cronkite News.
The deadline to register to vote for the August primary is Monday, and a local nonprofit is focusing on civic engagement in their Summer Youth Leadership Conference. Our reporter Allison Snell went to Univision Studios to find out what leadership means to these kids.
The last day to register to vote is looming, and young activism is high. Valley students who want to have their voices heard took part in a conference today. I spoke with organizers and attendees about how they're working to be more involved.
We want to bring out that fire in them, and then we want to show them the tools that they can use to become those powerful leaders, because they are the next generation.
As a DACA recipient, Eddie Chavez wants to be a voice to his community.
How do we organize to get our voices heard? How do we organize to make sure people are registered to vote? How do we organize to knock on doors to make sure that people are actively involved in civic engagement?
He encourages the attendees to be exactly who they are.
Most of our local leaders are from Mexico, are LGBTQ, so we're showing them that there is a diverse group and that nothing can stop you from becoming a powerful local leader.
One of the panelists explains what leadership means to them.
When I think about leadership, leadership to me is doing the right thing when no one is looking.
That message hits home for recent college graduate Dahlia Luque, who says she can still learn a lot.
I really want to go into law school, but I no longer feel the motivation to go through a legal field because I'm not sure if that's the best use of my knowledge and my resources. But seeing these legislators out here talking about how they are doing the work that they're doing and still coming back to their communities and finding ways to create change motivates me to continue my passion.
A volunteer for the conference explains it's about more than just being a leader.
I think it's very important for youth to understand the topic of leadership so they can feel motivated to become leaders themselves and they can start the change and empower more people to continue that change.
The conference also encouraged young adults to register to vote before the deadline on Monday. In the Broadcast Center, Allison Snell, Cronkite News.
Applying for colleges can be a stressful process. With thousands of applicants, it's sometimes hard to stand out. One Arizona dad is helping make the process a little bit easier. Reporter Amanda Mason introduces us to the inventor.
I spoke with the creator of Me Plus More app that was launched this year in April. It's designed to help students use current technology to show more personality on their college applications and help connect a face to a name. A father of 3, David Wachtel, created the Me Plus More app to help students with college applications.
An admission officer spends on average 8 minutes looking at an application for some of these selective colleges or honors programs. This gives the student an opportunity to show more of themselves.
The app tracks all of the students' activity from any digital calendar and compiles the information into a digital portfolio called a Me Sheet. The URL then can be sent or attached anywhere. Wachtel wanted to create a tool for parents who may not be technologically savvy.
So this is something that takes what they already do, again, which is they're keeping a Google Calendar or an iCalendar with events on where their kid needs to be, and they're able to translate that quickly within the application.
With thousands of applications, Wachtel says colleges are looking for a way to differentiate between students.
I'm looking to highlight a lot of the outside of school activities that I think build a lot of character that schools are now having to look to.
Even down to like I fish occasionally, and it'll have like a little section. It'll show how many hours I've spent like fishing, or like just because colleges don't expect you to include something like that, and it makes you seem like more of a person than as opposed to just another application.
Wachtel's son Jack is a senior this year and already started using the app for applications and internship opportunities.
And until I saw what my portfolio looked like, I didn't really realize the scope of this application. When I saw it, I was like, dang, this is something else.
Wachtel says the next step for the app is creating a way for teachers, coaches, or activity leaders to sign off and validate the students' time, and even possibly leave recommendations or comments. Amanda Mason, Cronkite News.
Football season will be kicking off before we know it,
which means Valley teams are suiting up to get some practice in. Coming up on Cronkite News, how these teams are tackling record-breaking heat so that they can tackle breaking records in the fall.
And just like us, snakes are looking for ways to beat the heat. What to do when summer weather has them slithering into our homes.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
I'm Ted Simons, host and managing editor of Arizona Horizon. The 2018 election season has arrived. Join us for primary and general election debates. Right here, meet the candidates and hear their positions. Arizona Horizon, your source for what matters most this election season. Only on Arizona PBS.
Here at Cronkite News, we have producers who craft shows that make an impact on our community. Our broadcasts allow students to be involved in all levels of production, from producing to directing. We are guided by highly respected professionals who mentor the journalists of tomorrow. From technical directing to teleprompting and beyond, our production crew works tirelessly to produce meaningful and award-winning shows. We are Cronkite News on Arizona PBS.
A Gilbert teen was sent to the hospital on Wednesday for heat-related illness during football practice. The player was practicing outside in record-breaking heat when he started feeling sick. Arizona summers are some of the hottest in the country, with the mercury touching 115 degrees some days. For those of us who work inside, it's not a big deal, but to high school football players, it can be downright oppressive. Cronkite News reporter Sam Hoyle visited one Scottsdale high school where they're doing things a little differently.
That's right, Nicole. I got up bright and early to visit Notre Dame Prep, where their football team is doing all that they can to beat the brutal heat.
Most Arizona high school football teams begin practice during the summer. So how do some student athletes avoid the brunt of the oppressive midday sun? By starting practice just as the sun comes up. For running back Dominic Mastro, early mornings aren't easy, but it's all for the love of the game.
I mean, sucks to wake up, but as long as I can come and play football, I'm all good with it.
Notre Dame High School football just finished up one of their summer practices on this field right behind me at 8:20 a.m., a practice that started at 6 a.m. After practice, I spoke to their varsity head football coach, George Prelock, and he says that their ability to escape the heat late in the day stems from a little bit of extra time that they have before the school year.
Boys don't have school right now, so we could get out early. They could just focus on football, and 6 a.m. is obviously a little cooler than it is at 3 p.m. in the afternoon.
So why is it smart to practice earlier in the day or later in the evening as the sun drops? Aside from the glaring fact that 95 degrees is a lot cooler than 110, Dr. Kunal Shah at the Cardin Children's Medical Center in Mesa says that direct sunlight affects the body's ability to cool itself down and can cause heat-related illnesses.
Before the sun is overhead and before it's excessively hot in the, between noon and 4 p.m. especially, having practices end by 10 o'clock is definitely the best way to prevent these types of illnesses. Practicing just when it's dark outside, even when it's a little bit hot and still over 100 degrees is better than practicing, during the midday.
Unfortunately for the Notre Dame Prep football team, once school starts, they won't have the luxury of beating the heat in the early morning hours. They'll have to practice in the afternoon after school.
Dr. Shah recommends that if you are going to be outside in the heat doing any physical activity, that you take a break about every 30 minutes and consume 8 ounces of water during that break to stay hydrated. Sam Hoyle, Cronkite News.
Record-breaking temperatures are not the only concern for Arizonans, as reporter Jordan Daphnis found out. Rattlesnakes are looking for shade, sometimes in places you may not want them.
Think about it. You don't want to be out in the heat, and neither do rattlesnakes.
So they try to hide under rocks, porches, really anything shaded. I stepped out of my comfort zone and went to the Phoenix Herpetological Society to find out more about rattlesnakes and how you can avoid them. Most people would agree it is too hot outside. While humans aren't the only ones trying to escape the heat, snakes want to get away as well.
During the summer, they can tolerate a very high temperature, but this time of the year, we're going to be 111 today, they can't be out in the direct sunlight for very long, otherwise they'll boil. Their skin is a solar panel, so it absorbs the heat very efficiently.
So the snakes try to find a cooler place to hide, making a lot of work removing them for Russ Johnson from the Phoenix Herpetological Society.
Especially this time of the year, it's anywhere from 25 to 40, but I have logged as many as 60 calls in a day.
How do you know if a snake is venomous?
You can't miss the rattles. It looks like big old chunks of fingernail material on the tail. It does have a triangular or blocky head. And even if all the rattles were off, it's going to look like the end of your pinkies. It's very thick, where a non-venomous snake looks like has a very tapered tail and it looks like it's been put through a pencil sharpener. And the head is more rounded like your finger.
Johnson says the only venomous snakes we have to worry about in Arizona is the rattlesnake. There are 17 species of them. He warns if you don't want to get bit, follow this advice.
It is physically impossible to be bitten by a rattlesnake if you do two things. Do not put your hands or your feet where you cannot see. So if you're hiking on a trail, you stay on the trail. If you go tramping through a bush and you step on a bush that a rattlesnake is in, he's going to strike you and then rattle because you've startled him.
Johnson says if you do see a rattlesnake at your door, step back and get away from the area. Do not try to dispose of the snake yourself. Most services do charge a fee for removal, but it is much cheaper than a hospital bill. In the broadcast center, Jordan Daphnis.
A reliable water source is critical to promoting public health.
But because of the ongoing drought, our water is in danger. Up next, the action Phoenix officials are taking to keep important rivers flowing throughout the state.
Rain is in the forecast for the high country, but what about us here in the valley? I'll have all the details coming up after the break.
Cronkite News, weeknights at 5 on Arizona PBS.
Millions of people die every year from drinking dirty water. I would never have felt I had the ability to do something without ASU pushing me. We built filtration systems out of local materials with the people. To see those kids drink clean water for the first time, it's the most rewarding feeling that you can ever have. I went to ASU because I wanted to change the world. The thing I never would have expected is how the world would have changed me.
I'm Ted Simons, host and managing editor of Arizona Horizon. Join us each weekday at 5:30 and 10 as we bring you the top newsmakers who impact the state. We cover the stories in depth that shape and affect our local communities, and we take the time to ensure that all voices are equally heard. For more than 30 years, Arizona Horizon has been your voice and your source for what matters most, right here on Arizona PBS.
Join us each week on Catalyst, the show that explores new advancements, technologies, and innovations at Arizona State University that are shaping the future for tomorrow and beyond. Catalyst, Wednesdays at 9, right here on Arizona PBS.
We've all heard it before. We live in a desert, so conserving the state's water supply is essential. I spoke with the city of Phoenix about the $300,000 they recently pledged to conserving the Salt and Verde River system. The valley is dependent on water from the Salt and Verde rivers.
The city of Phoenix gets 60% of its water supply from the Salt and Verde River watershed.
A watershed that is constantly facing challenges, from drought to wildfires. So the city of Phoenix pledged $100,000 a year for 3 years to the Nature Conservancy.
So we'll use the Phoenix money for
projects that they care about most for their city.
Potentially, projects like funding more effective irrigation, capturing runoff from city streets, or decreasing wildfire impacts.
The water is impacted via quality and quantity. You know, we're trying to keep water in the river, so it makes it all the way down to the valley.
The Nature Conservancy hopes other cities contribute to the water fund.
For sustainability, it's incredibly important. We need to maintain those flows because we do count on them on an ongoing basis.
And depending on the success of the next 3 years, Phoenix will decide whether they want to renew their pledge.
We're very hopeful, and we've seen some of the success that's already occurred through previous projects and have looked at the intended projects for the upcoming 3 years, and we've seen good results.
The watersheds extend throughout northern Arizona and are just one way Arizona stays hydrated, including the Colorado River system and groundwater.
Severe wildfires in California have turned deadly. As of this morning, 2 people have been killed fighting the Carr Fire in Northern California. Record high temps, low humidity, and windy conditions are just adding fuel to the fire that started Monday. More than 200 National Guard members have joined the ground and air efforts. In Southern California, more than 3,000 people were evacuated after a wildfire authorities say was started by a serial arsonist. And Yosemite National Park looks more like a ghost town thanks to the Ferguson fire.
Governor Doug Ducey has declared a state of emergency for Coconino County after severe flooding earlier this month. The declaration makes $200,000 of state funds available for ongoing response and recovery efforts. Monsoon storms from July 14th through July 18th brought unusually heavy storms in northern Arizona. One storm produced 3 inches of rain in an hour. More rain is still in the forecast for the Flagstaff.
But will we get any of the moisture down in the valley? Roger Ratley's here with your weekend forecast.
Well, there is a 10% chance of rain for us here in the valley tonight. For the weekend, well, I'll get to that in just a moment. Currently, though, it's 106 in the valley, mostly sunny, and the winds are out of the west at 5 miles per hour. Around the rest of the valley, currently it's 108 in Glendale, 106 in Goodyear, 106 in Chandler, and also 106 in Mesa. As we look at our almanac, we hit a high today of 109, which is just above our average temp of 105. Thankfully, we didn't come anywhere near that record temp of 118 that happened back in 1995. The rest of the state, Flagstaff saw a high today of 82, Lake Havasu 113, and actually the western part of the state, they're under a heat advisory until 8 p.m. tonight. Taking a look at your forecast, Saturday is 107, and actually that's our best chance for rain on Saturday, 30% chance. Sunday 105, Monday 108. And looking ahead, there's actually a chance, no matter how small, there's a chance of rain through the rest of the week. I'm Roger Ratley in the Weather Center.
Could football one day tackle football in Mexico?
More kids are starting to put on the shoulder pads south of the border. Coming up on Cronkite News, why a new era of sports is about to kick off.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickenburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland. In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
This is my last broadcast as the anchor man of the CBS Evening News, and that's the way it is.
Carrying on the baton of those who came before us, our superb team of journalists, writers, reporters, editors, producers work each and every week to tell the stories critical to you. For Arizona news that matters, tune into Cronkite News weeknights at 5 on Arizona PBS.
If you're looking for one show that tells you what happened that day in the world of business, it's NBR.
We saw a classic shipwreck.
Nordstrom's opening stores.
Triple-digit gains.
Crude climbs.
We're there to help our audience find new investment ideas.
The market still has room to go up.
Nightly Business Report is the longest-running business television program in history.
Weeknights at 10:30 on Arizona PBS.
A youth sports team in Mexico is taking it upon themselves to grow football within their community. Cronkite News reporter Felipe Corral Jr. went to the city of San Luis to see what steps are being taken to score a touchdown across the border.
American football is making an impact in the community of San Luis Rio Colorado, Sonora, in Mexico. The sport is growing and local youth are finding a new passion that is not football. The man behind the movement in San Luis is Edgar Barraza, a former player and coach who is now president of the youth football team, Los Aztecas de San Luis.
Si tú ya has convivido con personas que han jugado esta disciplina,
if you have interacted with anyone who has played football, a brotherhood is created. Great citizens are created. You always work in a team. You are always searching for ways to help your teammate out.
sacar adelante a tu compañero.
Los Aztecas have over 50 players from elementary to high school and compete in tackle and flag football across the region. The increase in players participating reflects football's growth in San Luis and in Mexico.
The kids get really motivated. It's a novel experience for them. It is influencing a lot of them because I have seen it and I've talked with them. It is influencing them to want more.
They're raw gems. You just have to really chip away at them and get them to commit and get them to play American football at a decent level. I think that's the next step for the city of San Luis.
Cantu was the first Mexican-born non-kicker not to go to college in the United States and play in the NFL. He and the Arizona Cardinals have held football camps for the Aztecas de San Luis for the past 2 years, not only to provide the necessary resources for these youth, but to increase the popularity of the sport south of the border.
We have kids camps that we do every single year in Nogales, in Hermosillo, in Obregón, and throughout the whole state. And San Luis, it just happens to be the new place to visit because it's the sport that's growing is really going towards a positive direction, and we see the impact of these kids.
In what way does it help me? That they see these ex-players. One example is Rolando, who is Mexican and made it to the NFL. And while they say, you know, I like it, and they continue and the number of youths add up.
American football has been present in Mexico for over 100 years, but that comes with adversity, including lack of equipment and funds, and educating families on the physical risk.
That the parents know that their child is working with people fully capable. I could give you an example. We have coaches that used to be ex-players.
Support them with kids camps, with sometimes giving them jerseys, practice jerseys or T-shirts or something, so they can really grasp and continue to play the sport.
But football, nevertheless, gives youth a chance to dream big.
Well, to be honest, my dream is to play in the NFL. I know it won't be easy, but I have to try.
Football will remain Mexico's most popular sport, but football will continue giving people and youth in this border city a sense of community and teamwork. From San Luis, Sonora, Felipe Corral Jr., Cronkite News.
Cantu said the camp in San Luis has grown to over 100 participants in the past 2 years and expects the number to double as they head back for a third consecutive year.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
On the next Arizona Horizon, it's the Journalists Roundtable. The governor proposes a constitutional amendment to end legislative immunity, a new challenge to an effort to tax the wealthy to help fund education.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next NewsHour, Mark Shields and David Brooks weigh in on President Trump and trade, the newest revelations in the Russia investigation, and the rest of the week's news. That's Friday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thank you for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
Support for Arizona PBS comes from viewers like you and from
Friendship Village Tempe, a retirement community for over 30 years, offers independent living with residency options, lifelong learning classes, as well as continuing care. Information at friendshipvillageaz.com.
on the Great British Baking Show.
Tell us about your buns, please.
Hello.
This Sweet Buns Challenge.
They look great.
Sheer heaven to eat.
Will send a pair of bakers packing.
This week